All right, the last segment, and this is the one that I think hits us all at some time or another, and this is Game Master Burnout. We're going to start with Malachi again here. I think I started with Cody last time. Either way, it doesn't matter. Malachi.
Yeah.
What are the signs of GM burnout, and how can it affect game quality?
Well, the game quality is going to be obvious. When you have the burnout, you're your head's not going to be in the zone to run a game. So everything's going to suffer. And for me, from my point of view, I definitely see when when you're sitting there, games the next day, you don't have anything ready. You're not ready to go. You in the back of your mind, I'm like, I'm hoping a whole bunch of people call off that they can't make it to session. That I could just say, we're not going to have the session. You're just, you're not feeling the setting anymore. Oh, I mean, that's just off the top of my head. But I mean,
have you ever showed any of these signs?
Oh yeah. I
and so what did you do? Like, I mean, how did you either get over it, or did you just say, you know what, I'm done? I realize these symptoms say I can't go on, or are these symptoms that you can get over?
There are something you can get over. Sometimes maybe you just can say to your players, hey, let's just this week, I want to try this game out. I have a little one shot for it. You guys only have to make characters. There's already pre-gens. Maybe it's a starter set. Let's just play this tonight. We'll come back next week. Just take a week off.
We're gonna get to all the ways around it. That's my fault for actually injecting, because that's going to be part of the next question, is talk about how to resolve this. But I guess more so, how does this directly affect game quality?
I mean, you're not going to be there. Your brain's not going to be working. It's not going to be building, creating the things you need, the improv you need, the interactions you need with the players' characters to keep them engaged, to keep the game moving forward.
So there's a good point. If you're not showing the energy or the vibe, let's say the vibe, because sometimes you can still show the energy and still not be there. Do you think that affects the players and how they return that vibe?
Yes, I do think that, because like you said earlier, the GM is almost like a leader of the table.
That was him.
Oh, sorry.
Don't give me credit for his words, but I agree with it. It was his words.
Yeah, GM is kind of the leader of the table. They're going to take players will take cues from you, and if you are just giving off that vibe of any kind of burnout, they're going to pick that up, I think.
Okay.
And then that's going to lead to them maybe not getting as involved, not trying to come up with something unique, some crazy idea.
All right. I just want to remind folks, if you have not done so already, you should be subscribed to GM Cody. You should be subscribed to Malachi. I got links in the description, so please be sure you do that. They're taking their time to be here on my show, but they have their own channels and their own content that you should check out. It's really good stuff. So, GM Cody, again, the same question for you. What are the signs of GM burnout, and how can it affect game quality?
Yeah, the signs of GM burnout are pretty obvious. It could be a really gradual thing, or it could be a really sudden thing. It's usually just going to be a lack of enthusiasm. You could see it, right? Like they're completely not into running the game. You can tell that they're not into the game. And this is something you need to realize as a GM too, is when you need to realize when you're getting burned out, and you need to take a step back and say, hey guys, I'm getting burned out. Let's do something different. Like Malachi said, either maybe it's as quick as, maybe you don't want me to go into this, but I'm going to go into it anyways. maybe you need to just change games. Maybe you need to just play board games for the night. Like I've done that many times. Like, dude, I'm burned out, guys. Let's just play board games tonight. Like, let's play Axis and Allies. Let's play Dune. Let's play whatever, zombies or whatever. Let's play something where I don't really have to be in charge of like coming up with an adventure and like really being involved in the session.
Interruption time.
Drink.
Law dog for $50. Yeah, this means I don't have my shot glass in front of me, so I'm gonna have to go get my wife to let me get her attention. hopefully
Bring
you guys.
forth the shot glass.
See if she heard me. If not, I'll get up. But yes, so bring on the giveaway. Yes, there will be a giveaway. It'll be during segment 5. Again, that's not going to be on this portion. But thank you very much, Law Dog. Law Dog, I'm doing the drink. Well, he gave $50, but I'm also doing the drink because he gifted some memberships today. Law Dog's been really supportive of our channel recently. I think he's surpassing Crafty. Not in the long run yet, because Crafty's done a lot of, hundreds of dollars of donations behind the scenes over the years. But yeah, I'm gonna make Crafty feel guilty. No, I'm not. He'll never feel guilty. But I appreciate it, Law Dog. You're awesome. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, my wife didn't get the message there, so I'm gonna have to get up right now. Continue on, GM Cody. Sorry for the interruption, but that's what happens with $50. And finish your story there, and I will get some alcohol.
Yep. Thanks, Law Dog, for the $50 super chat there. But yeah, I mean, you're going to show signs. You're going to get burned out one way or the other. It happens to me all the time. Actually, I think it's probably one of my biggest weaknesses is getting tired of a certain type of game, or wanting to move to something else, and getting burned out. I get burned out rather quickly, actually, of like running the same game over and over again. So like that's going to happen one way or another. Some people, it's going to happen more quickly than others, and that's fine. There are ways out of it. Like you said, you just need to do something that either somebody else needs to run the game, maybe for a while. Somebody else needs to pick up the mantle, GM for a while, or, run some board games, play some more games, play some miniature games, or run a different game. That really helps me, is just run a different game, get my mind off of that game, completely different concept, completely different genre, tone, setting, and do something different.
It's not exactly accurate, but he's close enough. I got it. Thank you. So, wife poured me some 80 proof Southern Comfort.
All right.
Used to live on this. This isn't even a full shot. Fill this damn thing up. I'm going to do a shot for someone who gave me $50. By the way, I am not going to, if people all of a sudden just started donating 50, I will stop at some point so that I can still run an effective stream. I'm not killing myself over this, but.
Yeah, we don't want him singing.
Oh, and I will. Bruce, don't do it. Don't do it. Bruce is notorious for paying money to get me to sing. Yeah, she's already threatening to beat me because she knows she's the one that says I sound like two cats fucking when I sing. So that's my lovely wife. All right. Anyway, Law Dog, thank you very much for the $50 super chat. And yes, we will have a giveaway tonight. Southern Comfort and Coke was my drink as a teenager. Well, not teenager, in my early 20s. Had to stop drinking it after. Go away. All right. where was I at? So we were talking about, Cody, and you may have already answered this while I stepped away, and I apologize if you did. I can move on to another one. But have you suffered this burnout yourself? And what were your direct signs where you're like, okay, I know there's a problem?
Yeah, so I suffer from this a lot, actually. Unfortunately, I'm kind of ADHD. I don't know if I get burned out so much as I just get bored of stuff really quickly and want to move on to something else.
Weird. Okay.
But I do get burned out too. Like I've been burned out a lot of being a GM because I am the GM of my group usually. I am the GM. That's why I'm GM Cody, right? Because everybody looks to me, hey Cody, will you run a game? Mm-hmm. So I do get burned out, and I know when I'm going to get burned out. And when I do get burned out, I tell everybody, hey, I'm kind of burned out. I used to not know that I'm getting burned out, and I would suffer, and everybody would suffer from the consequences of me getting burned out. But now I know, I can see the signs when I'm getting burned out because I'm just not interested. I'm not prepping for the game. I'm not thinking about the game. And I'm not bringing the enthusiasm I should for the game. I'm getting burned out. And I'll tell everybody, hey, I'm getting burned out. We need to either move on to a different game for a while. Maybe we'll come back to this one. Or we maybe just need to take a break. Or we just need to play some different kind of games, some board games or whatever, like I mentioned earlier. Just kind of get me back in the mood. Or maybe somebody else, like I said, maybe somebody else run a game. Does anybody else want to run a game for a while? Let me be a player for a couple sessions. Maybe it'll get my enthusiasm back up, and I'll have,
Between the two of you, you've taken away every single follow-up question except for one. You've just described. No, that's good. That's good because we can get closer to getting back on time track here. But I do have to interrupt for a moment. Bruce Lombardo of Dick's Division for $20. Thank you very much. Max needs to cover Everything About You by Ugly Kid Joe. I know the band Ugly Kid Joe. I can't say I know that song. Might be really popular, but I'm very in a box when it comes to music. Though then again, I just might not know the name of it. I might know the song. I don't know. There's not an iconic 90s song. It's not yet an iconic. I don't like 90s music, man. I generally don't like, why they call it alternative music, right? Because it's the alternative to music. Just
around the 80s.
Okay, but it grew in popularity starting with the whole Pearl Jam nonsense, and then you had like Silverchair and all that other nonsense. But it wasn't good stuff. But with that said, I don't know that song. But thank you for the $20. And if I get drunk enough during segment 5, maybe I'll sing and scare away all the viewers.
Yeah. So we could have a whole nother argument about music, which we're not going to go off on that.
No. Well, we talked about it behind the scenes one point. I just have a very, very,
yeah. I think Darth Theek brought up a good point here is I do get more enthused and less burned out when the players show more enthusiasm.
Yes.
So if the players aren't bringing as much energy to the game, I get burned out rather quickly. But if they're more enthusiastic, I'm more enthusiastic and more involved in the game. Like when the players are like, yes, I love this. This is what I'm doing. Oh, I'm going to write some stuff about my character. And when are we playing next? And and really getting involved when we're actually playing the game. I'm like, yes. I'm like, I'm right there with them. Like I get more pumped up the more they get pumped up. So that absolutely helps if your players are bringing that energy. Again, I've already made the statement many times. The players have to bring as much energy to the game as the GM does. They have to reciprocate. The GM is not responsible for bringing all the fun. The players are responsible half for that as well.
So let me ask. I'm going to ask 2 follow-ups at one time here because they're kind of similar-ish. This is more like this is kind of yes, no, but feel free to elaborate. Should a GM suffering burnout put a game on hiatus or just end it? The reason I ask that question is because in my experience, anytime a game master puts a break on hiatus, we never go back to it.
Yeah, typically. Yeah, I mean, I just be real with it. Usually when you say, hey, we're gonna put a break on this game, play this different game, maybe we'll come back to this game. That never happens.
Right.
I mean, like I have done that before, like actually gone back to that old game, but it isn't
the same, is it?
No, it's not the same. It's not going to be the same energy. It's not going to be the same game. And that's fine. Like you just have to accept. I mean, that's one thing you have to accept as a new player, new GM, that sometimes you just need to call it quits on a game and move on to something else. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Like, like maybe sometimes you just need to bury that fucking game and move on to something new. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a bad thing. Like maybe that's what you need to re-energize the group, the players and the GM and everybody, just to get things kind of like, restarted a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. And it happens more often than not with most groups. Mm-hmm. And it's not an issue at all. It's actually not a bad thing. So don't feel like it's a bad thing to like desert your game and move on to something else. Most campaigns are not going to be long running campaigns.
Yeah.
You have to look at the reality that most campaigns are not going to be a full campaign. They're going to end pretty quickly.
That's depressing.
It's just a reality of it, though. And that's an important lesson to learn as a new GM and a new player or whatever.
I'm going to break something to people here. I know we joke around a lot about 5e and the whole succession thing. I am hearing that from 2e players from back in the day.
What? Yeah. I'm serious. Like no matter where I've been, nope. That was just a player issue. That wasn't the campaign. Even my 3e games. I didn't run 3e. I only played it. I don't want to say never because there are some outliers. For the most part, any time that we set up a game that was a serious game, like what we've done with Bear right now, we've done 3 sessions already. No, they've lasted months minimum. Sometimes we had 2 games going at the same time. Yeah, if we were trying a game, that's one thing. If we were giving a new guy a chance to be a dungeon master just to check it out, that might be a couple sessions or something like that, but we knew that going in. But anytime somebody set up a campaign where there's a Rifts campaign, a Played in Fantasy campaign, Dungeons and Dragons campaign, my Earth Dawn campaigns, whatever it happened to be, even my TMNT campaigns lasted months. And remember, guys, we played 8 hours every week. So, like, months means at least 10, 12, 15 sessions bare minimum. I've never experienced that. I just haven't until now. Until what we've run into now. And
maybe just the exception.
Then I'm the exception all over the world. I think you are the exception because I've played with many groups over the years, all kinds of different people, and we've always tended to fluctuate between different games very quickly and not stick with one thing very often. But there has been times where we stick with one thing for a very long time, like something sticks, and for whatever reason it goes on for months, years.
Let me ask you this question then. So I'm visualizing what you're saying in terms like when I played at a game store like War Games West in Albuquerque when I was stationed at Kirtland. What you're saying there is true, but we kind of knew that going in. I was playing like RPGA games and I was playing BattleTech, and we were playing more-ish one-shot. I wouldn't call them one-shots, but we knew that they were only going to last a month or so, whatever. But the games that I met from those players there that we took to our homes or dorms or whatever, those lasted. My Earth Dawn game there lasted over a year, and the only reason it ended there is because I ended up going to Korea. So it kind of had to end. I've only really run into that through the gaming store games, not through my core group of friends, whether in Minnesota or New Mexico, Colorado, or wherever. Is your experience the same, or is mine still unique in that regard? Okay.
I think you're completely unique to me. Like in my experience, it's been the complete opposite. Like we would play a game and it would be like, okay, this is going to be a campaign, and it would last 2, 3, 4 sessions and die out, and we move on to something else.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like that happened a lot. Now, also, I would say that we had a lot of campaigns that would be like, okay, we played this game. It's going to be a campaign. 2 years later, we're still playing the same campaign. So and I couldn't even really tell you why. It just was the way it is.
We had bad game masters that like, dude, you suck as a game master. Sorry, but we can't keep doing this. Nobody's having fun.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's that. But usually back in the day, we had one guy that was the game master. So like in middle school, we had a guy that was the game master. In high school, we had a guy that was the game master. So it was like, he was the forever GM. He always ran games. He was always doing stuff. In fact, back then I was the part-time GM. I was always the guy that took over when he got burned out. Right. Like, so that's, but yeah, I mean, like, I think you're the exception as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it might differ on the area, might differ on the group.
Well, that's the funny thing. And I know I've said this before. I've even said it, I've said it on air and I've said it behind the scenes. I didn't even really realize that there were different styles of play. A lot of times I'm considered like, oh, you're a story gamer. Oh, you're this. You're like, nobody plays that way, whatever. Until I was a YouTuber. And mind you, I grew up in Minnesota. I played in New Mexico. Actually, I played in Colorado. That's a lot of story behind that one. I played in Korea, played in Maryland, played in Germany, played in Japan, played in Illinois, I played in all these different places with different people. Hell, when I went back to Minnesota, I wasn't even hanging around with my original friends. I got a whole new friend circle. And we all played this way. And it wasn't until, and I'm not saying it's the right way, I'm just saying in my experience is like when people are like, nobody plays the way, like this is everything I was exposed to, no matter where I was in the world, until I became a YouTuber and found, oh, people play differently. That's weird. We considered that crap role playing, and we consider you, not story gamers. We consider you guys improv, because I'm in the middle there. Like I just didn't come across that. And I'd like to think, yes, even playing around the world, my experience is anecdotal. I get that.
Yeah.
I fully get, but I just didn't think it was that different. But interesting. Okay.
No, I agree with you to some extent. I think the internet has been kind of a taint on role-playing games. I don't think people thought about the philosophy of how they were playing games or whatever before, like, especially YouTube, right? Before you had all these influencers telling you what the right and wrong way to play role-playing games is. Everybody before that was just they didn't have a book or a YouTube or anything to tell them how to fucking play. They were just doing it. That's how we did it.
Yep.
Like I didn't have any examples. None. Zero. I didn't see anybody do this. I just started doing it. And I really, even though I've gotten better at what I do, I haven't changed what I do. Even back
what gave you your impetus for how you run games here? And I'll just answer the question for me real quickly. It was the Dragonlance novels. We wanted to recreate that, but with our own settings and worlds and whatever else.
My impetus was my imagination, because when I was a little kid, I always would just go outside and make shit up and like pick up a stick or a sword or whatever and be like, okay.
I'm sorry, I should be more clear about the question. I was talking about in the style what we were trying to accomplish at the table. And in the end, we wanted to be able to make a record of Lodoss War. We wanted to be able to make a dragon or the Lord of the Rings just with our own stuff. Now, none of us was going to write it. Some tried, but we're ultimately trying to make that emergent story, right? The emergent story based on what happened at the table. But that's what we wanted. We wanted to be able to tell those tales.
Yep. Yeah. So you're saying what was my biggest influence?
Yeah, I don't know what the right word. Impetus, influence. What was the goal of your gaming?
My goal of my gaming was to play out, like be these characters and play these characters in a story that we interact with that's not set in stone. And I understood this concept. I think I understood this concept even when I was a little kid, when I started role playing, that, hey, I get this completely because I was already doing this before I got into role playing games. That this is what I want to do, because I grew up. I think probably what had the biggest influence on me was movies, because I got into role playing games before I probably was really reading books, and so I saw these classic '80s movies like Willow and The Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal and Conan the Barbarian and all this stuff, and that's what inspired me. And comic books too. You know, I was reading comic books, and like, so I wanted to be these characters in these stories I saw on the big screen, and I wanted to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I wanted to be whatever, like I want to be these characters, but I didn't want like a script necessarily. I wanted.
It's funny because I'm going to get a lot of hate for saying this, but when I tell people, when they're like, well, what is role playing? It's acting without a script, and people get really harped on that acting word. I don't mean it like as in you have to be a thespian. I mean, as in you're playing the part of another character of somebody else that's not you, and you're doing it without a script. So you get to act however you feel is natural for that character.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you put your headspace. I mean, that's my favorite part of playing in a role-playing game is making a character that's not me, right? Like I'm not me. I'm playing a different character that's a different personality, that has a different voice, has a different persona, like, and I'm in a different world that's alien from mine. I'm escaping into this world, and I want to be totally immersed in what I'm doing in this place and time, and act out the way I think this person would be acting. Pull the strings.
All right, let's Malachi, let's see any follow-ups there. We'll hit our last question, but go ahead if you have anything you want to add to that. I don't want to cut you off.
I did have a question. What do you think the difference between having the gaming ADHD and the burnout would be? Is there a way to tell a difference?
I think there's definitely a difference. I think I suffer more from the gaming ADHD. That's a big weakness of mine, personally. I know it is, and I've been trying to work on it. But there is a difference between gaming ADHD and burnout, because so like, for example, it might be that you go see the new whatever movie and you're like, holy shit, I want to play that. Let's play that tonight. Like I'm excited about, we saw the new Dune movie. Let's play Dune like that. that would be an awesome game. Wouldn't that be an awesome game? And then you talk about it for like 3 hours on the way home, and like, you know, have a beer and you're like, yeah, that'd be a great game. And, you know, you plot out this whole campaign. And then suddenly the D&D campaign doesn't seem like it's enticing.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily burnout. It's just that you're more fascinated. Your mind's more fixated on this idea, this subject, more so than being burned out. Burnout is more, you know, you're just burned out. You've been doing it for a long time, or you're just fucking tired of doing it. And it might be that you're just bored of the same. You're bored, or you're just whatever. You're burned out. You know, like you're just tired of doing it, and you need a break. You know, and you can tell the signs when you're burned out. You're just going to be less enthusiastic. You're not going to bring the same energy to the game, and it's not going to be as good of a game.
And it's also just not as interesting to you at that time. That's what I found when I was burned out. I was just like, I don't care. I just don't care. Yeah, it's funny you say that. So we got around the ADHD thing, as we'll call it for now, is by we had the main game, whatever it happened to be, on Saturdays or Sunday, you know, whatever, on the weekend, that 8-hour session on the weekend. But then we had a 4-hour session on Wednesdays. And sometimes that was either a shorter campaign. Let's try something new. Let's just have a different game master with a different genre of game for a while. Because I think Heathen Dog's Mage game actually lasted fairly long for the Wednesday game, so to speak. But that was we want to try something else. We used the Wednesday night game for that. While we had the Saturday game, which was the static one. So it was a little. We didn't have the ADHD thing, except for we did play a lot of different games. So for me, the Sunday game, this is when I was in New Mexico, the Sunday game was the long game. That was the game where I was running 6 days a week of Dungeons and Dragons, 2 different campaigns, or I was running my Earth Dawn game. That's when I first started Earth Dawn, was in New Mexico. But then the Saturday was go to the game store and play something else, play RPGA game, play a BattleTech game, play a vampire game, play a board game, Fortress America, whatever. Play something else there. But then the static game was on the other day. So we always had both. So we had some consistency, but we also were exposed to Torg and Harn and, et cetera.
Right. Yeah. And I've longer games in.
Yeah. Yeah. I've definitely done this too. I've done it in a few different ways. Like you said, you can have, I've definitely done that and that helps significantly, where it's like, okay, this week it's our regular, like whatever, AD&D game. But this week is a free week and we can play whatever, whether that's a board game or somebody else wants to run a game. We want to try something new. We want to have another campaign, maybe that'll be a long running campaign too. Or I think one of the best things I had was we had a group we had 3 guys that willing to GM, right? So, and we would switch off every week.
Damn you just hit my last follow-up question.
Oh, damn it. Okay. Well, I just fucking wrote it again.
That's good stuff, man.
But that really, really was like brought a lot of enthusiasm to the game, because none of us got burned out. None of us got tired. None of us got ADHD, because we were doing something different every week. Everybody had.
Were those different games?
Well, it was different games, but it was the same world. So that was really cool too, because all 3 of us as GMs we started collaborating together and like talking amongst each other, and actually brought the games together and had little things intermixed here and there that intermixed in the games. And then we actually like had this giant meta plot that combined all the games together. And I ended up running like this giant in-game scenario that brought all the games together. And it was great. It was amazing. It went on for 3 or 4 years.
That was awesome. I mean, seriously, you hit every one of my follow-up questions in here. But that's good stuff, because I was going to ask about how about swapping GMs for the same campaign or whatever. And Crafty asked, you switched off in same world?
Yeah. So what we did is we did World of Darkness, and we had one guy that ran a changeling game. I ran Mage, and we had another guy run a werewolf game. And originally this was all separate. And then we were like, hey, why don't we like bring these games together? So we started like talking as GMs. Okay, here's the main like plot device that's going to bring all these games together. And so we had separate campaigns going, but they all led up to the same thing. And at the very end, everybody picked their favorite character from all the games. And it led into this giant world ending event. So it was really good, and it lasted for a long time, and it was really great. It was probably one of the best times I had in gaming, one of those most memorable times, and it was one of the times I could think that we kept like all these campaigns going for the longest time.
Okay.
It was a really effective way of doing it, I think.
All right, Malachi, any follow-up to that? Otherwise, I'm going to ask the last question so we can hopefully end at only an hour over our target mark.
Go ahead. Let's get going.
All right. So last question I have for the evening, folks, this is segment 4. And I think you answered a lot of these, but I have to ask it directly because, it's on the list. What strategies can help game masters prevent or recover from burnout? What can they do to, hey, you know what, this is going to stop me from burning out, or I've burned out, I want to get back into this because, we haven't finished, or I just want to do this, whatever. And we'll start with Cody. Go ahead, Cody. Go ahead and touch this one.
Okay. So I think I already touched on this quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think we all did, but I mean, like all the techniques we were talking about, like whether that's switching up GMs between, I think what you were talking about, like switching up, having a week where it's like, this is our consistent game with our consistent GM. And then this is our off week where we play board games or miniature games or BattleTech or whatever on that week. That is really effective. Or doing what I was saying, where you have like a GM, like maybe switch games every week, whether that's, 3 GMs, which is a miracle that I had that happen, or you even 2, I've had that happen before, where it's like I have one other guy in the group that's running a completely different game than I'm running, and we switch off every other week and run a different game. That's really effective. Or just, just like taking a break. Like I was saying, there's nothing wrong with just, I think it's perfectly fine, again, to be honest with your players and the group. Be like, hey, look, guys, I'm burned out. I'm sorry. I'm tired. I'm tired of this. I'm bored of this. I don't want to do this anymore. Can we just take a break? And like this, if anybody else wants to step up and run a game, that's cool. Or, hey, we got these pile of board games that we've been buying for the past year. Why don't we play some of those? Because we tend to do that. I don't know if you guys do, but so
I'm not really a board gamer myself. I'll do it to hang out with friends, but I'm not a board gamer.
Okay, well, my group is, and my group buys all these games that we never play. And so sometimes I'm just like, hey, let's take a break this week and let's just play one of these games. Or, we kind of have some, we kind of have a few board games that we go to like all the time, like Talisman and Dune and whatever, that we play all the time. And we'll just be like, okay, let's play Dune this week. We bust out Dune. We play that for 3 hours, have a blast, drink a few beers, have a good time. And, maybe a couple weeks of that, and I'm ready to go again. I get enthused again and get reinvigorated because I didn't, whatever. So I think all those methods are an effective way for GM to get over burnout.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right. So Malachi, same question for you. What strategies can help game masters prevent or recover from burnout?
I just think taking a break, even running another game, another system, that I think is going to be your best bet. Or like Cody said, a board game night, even just kind of clear the headspace. But, you don't want to take too long of a break. Maybe one week. Like if you play every week, you take that 1 week off, and then next week you got to get back into that. You got to get back on the horse, or you're not going to keep going. So
one of the things that I went a little more pedantic on this, or a little more nuanced, I guess, than this. I went specifically find out what is causing the burnout. So, for example, if the burnout is from overload, like you feel you're just putting in a lot of work, maybe just get back to basics. Don't try to overcomplicate things. I had a game master, he's a friend of ours, he's actually in Legion of Myth, that used to do webs within this, like he just get all this tangled nonsense going on. And the dude's brilliant, don't get me wrong, but he'd get lost in his own webs and couldn't figure out where the hell we were sometimes. I mean, I'm telling you, I feel like you would walk into his preparation room and it looked like his red string going from this picture to that picture to this news article, things like that. And it's like, I think he overcomplicated it sometimes when it's time to just get back to basics. Let's simplify it. You don't have to get burned out then. And the flip side of it, if it's some boredom, maybe discover new challenges. Try something new. Try. It doesn't have to be even a new game, but try new ways of approaching something. Try new monsters. Try new NPCs. Try adding something new into it. And it could be a new game. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying, but if the burnout is from boredom, discover new challenges. I use those words specifically. Sorry for hitting my microphone there again, because that's what it is. If the challenge is something that you find rewarding, then find those new challenges. Do a high seas campaign or at least an adventure or two if that's something that you haven't done before, just to see if you can do it. Going back to what Cody and Malachi were saying earlier, in episode 1, which is just try it. You're going to fail at some point, but that's okay. Try it. Learn from that. And the last thing that I put on here in terms of this, and then I do have a follow-up question, is remember it's just a game. And while that is a cop-out answer, at some point you do have to step back and say it's just a game. Some people might, but for the most part, we don't make our lives on this. This doesn't define who we are as everything, in our life. I have a job, I have a wife, a family, this is what I do as a hobby. So I want it to be fun, yes. But if it's really starting to suck, it's a game. Bring back the fun.
Yeah, 100%. If you're not having fun, and this has happened to me many times, I'm just like, okay, why is this not fun? And how can I make this fun again? Right? Because if it's not, you're doing it wrong, in my opinion. Like if I'm not having fun, I don't want to fucking do it. I got to figure out why we're not having fun here and figure out some way that we can have some fun, whatever that might be,
Are there any bad strategies or strategies that just don't work?
Well, yes. Though I can't think.
To be fair, this could be personal. Like, well, it worked for him, but it doesn't work for me. But I guess what I'm asking is, if your experience, and to be fair, maybe you've never come across it because I actually got this question from a coworker of mine, and I don't think I've come across this directly myself, but I thought it was a good question to ask. Is like, when it comes to strategies that can help game masters prevent or recover from burnout, is there any just bad advice out there? I think the only one I can think of, but then again, it's not going to be bad advice for everybody, is just power through it.
Yeah, I don't think particularly that's good advice. If you're burned out, you need to make a change of some sort, or you need to reevaluate what you're doing, no matter what you're doing. Right? Like if you're burned out of anything, you need to shake it up. Otherwise it's going to have consequences on everything you do. So I don't know if powering through it's the best advice. I mean, maybe you'll come out on the other side all right, but like in my experience, that's not going to be good.
Yeah, I think you could actually come out worse than better.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, well, that's all 8 of our questions for tonight. First of all, Cody, thank you for selecting these 8 questions, and thank you for being here today. What does that tell folks? We have at least 16 more, and I'm sure we could come up with even more questions that could be asked on this topic about being a game master. This is not the definitive video that you'll ever find on what it means to be a game master, but it hopefully gave you some food for thought, gave you some ideas, some suggestions, some advice that you can use at your table. Feel free to put in the comments any questions, comments, concerns that you have, and remember, you need to subscribe to GM Cody. He had a lot of good commentary today. You're going to just get more of that if you go to his channel. And of course, subscribe to Malachi as well, and check out his blog. You find those in the description. Any wrap-up words that you guys want to say? Anything you're promoting or whatever before we head on out?
I don't have anything to promote really, other than, if you want to hear me rant about old games that I love and grew up with, come over and check it out. But just to wrap it up, I'd say there's a lot of advice about how to be a GM. But again, I'll say the same thing I did at the very beginning of the conversation. The best way to learn to be a GM is to fucking do it. Sit down and just start doing it, and you'll learn, you'll grow. Take the criticism, take all the information we told you, take the other information other people tell you, watch other people do it, and get better, be open-minded, and you can do it, and you'll grow. And if you really want to do it, you'll become a good GM.
All right. Malachi, same for you. Anything you want to promote, shout out, whatever? Any final comments?
I think Cody nailed it. Just get behind that screen and give it a try. You fail? Oh, well, maybe it's not for you, or maybe you could give it another shot, but you won't know unless you try. And yeah, come on by my blog. Sit down, watch Fallout, and read my commentary as you watch the episodes.
All right, Legion of Myth has RPG Digest every Sunday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, where we do deep dives, read-throughs, overviews, and fundamentals of games. I'd tell you what we're doing, but since this video goes public a month after we actually stream it, it's going to be old news. So just check out the channel there. And, of course, check out the Friday night stream. Oh, my God, it's not the Friday night chill stream yet. The Some Rando RPG live stream, where we have these panel discussions. I haven't decided what next week's going to be, but I'm kind of convinced I want to go with alternate tabletop RPGs, but I don't know. We'll figure it out. I have a list of over 40 topics ready to go right now. I'm good for the rest of the year, and people are suggesting even more. So we've got plenty of topics to talk about. We'll come up with something else, but I hope to see you all next week. And as always, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And thank you very much for all the folks who are here, super chats, memberships, and just hanging out and chat.